and then I disappeared again because, I don't know, it was just a bit awkward. I hadn't put a title on the live, and I thought, why not? It's kind of true crimey in a way. Were crimes committed? Possibly, but it's sort of essentially the same if you were to discuss the situation, say a real life crime case and the story of Reesa Teesa and Jerome. A lot of people might not be interested in this sort of thing, I don't know, but I did listen to a reasonable amount of her story, and I have seen Jerome, who has been nicknamed Legion. I've seen his interview with, I can't remember who. You know, it's interesting. I just thought it might be an interesting topic for discussion because there's a lot of themes in here. But you know, what does it really boil down to? When could, you know, when was the stage that a lot of heartache could have been prevented? You know, we want to talk about the positives, of course. We want to talk about the human condition. We want to talk about what's created a world where, you know, this person, from what we have kind of learned, where this person has one after the other, been a serial offender in terms of the way he operates his relationships. But, you know, it takes two to tango. That's really what I wanted to talk about. So who is here? Two people. No one? To say hello? We'll just be nice and pretend that you're driving or walking or otherwise busy. So how should I do this? Should I run through she said and then run through he said? Or should we just cut to this chase? I mean, there are some really serious issues here. You know, mental health issues. It's just Robbie. Just keep swimming. I am doing this now because Robbie, thanks for just letting me know. Because I was actually wanting to go to a swim myself, and then it just got too rainy and overcast. Not that I will swim in rain, but I didn't feel like traveling to the pool in that weather. So I'm going to do this now and then go swimming hopefully today. So, you know, there's so many themes here and there's so many troubling things. Not only that a person who needs, so I'd say they have, you know, really high support needs, but they are going to be seen as independent, capable, and just someone who, you know, isn't very pleasant to be around. And we've got someone who shouldn't have high support needs, but really seems to be an extraordinarily poor decision maker. Nice to meet you, Robbie. So there's been quite a few allegations too, and I just went back to try to find where did I hear this, who said it. Was it Reesa Teesa, whose name is Teresa? The person that I'm calling Legion, his name is Jerome McCoy. I just find that name interesting because McCoy, the real McCoy, and we're talking about fraud and deception and smoke and mirrors and lies. Excuse my voice. Yesterday, the first thing in the morning, I drank some apple cider vinegar, and I didn't dilute it enough. I coughed. It went up through my nasal passages, through my sinus. The pain was excruciating, and I did rinse it out, but ever since then, I have just been producing. It's calmed down a lot now, but my voice is croaky. Normally I'll sound a lot smoother. Robbie knows a pathological liar. Sorry, I will get the ball rolling. I'm just seeing if someone might tune in or not. It might be a very poor time to be doing this. It's probably the evening, not too late in the States. Maybe it's around late afternoon, maybe tea time. In the United Kingdom, it's maybe midnight. I'm not sure. Maybe I should have left. Yeah, apple cider vinegar with the mother and everything. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay, interesting. Thanks. Now, where the HIV status allegation came from was that Legion was in a group for singles who want to meet other people that share HIV status. Now, hi Perry, I'm so sorry about my voice. I thought yesterday I couldn't do this, and I was going to do this yesterday, and I thought my voice was going to be all right today. Sounds crappy, so it's probably really not very pleasant to listen to. I just can't clear my throat. Yes, I'll keep plowing on. So, was this a predatory action as he's performed in the past to meet women, or is this actually how Reesa Teesa met him? Funny thing is, though, that after marriage, she states that they weren't sleeping together after they got married. Let me just give you a run through, because people might not know about this, or they might not have heard the full story. So maybe that's how I should go about it. So Reesa Teesa says that she was on dating sites. She was looking at dating sites, looking for a partner, and she's looking for a partner with a view for marriage. I think she's someone who was probably in her 30s at the time, maybe late 30s. I don't know how old she is. She's very hard to see how old she is. So she's an American woman. She's a black woman. She's, got a cute look to her. She's plump, so is Jerome. And she talks a lot about his weight later, so that's why I'm mentioning that. She says that they met online on a dating app, and that she saw that he had profiles. One was in a full name and one was in an abbreviated name. Now, she's on 2 apps, isn't she, to see that? But has she posted up the same profile on both, whether it's Match.com or RSVP or eHarmony or Plenty of Fish, whatever it is? I mean, it's a bit hypocritical. Perhaps what she found strange was that he had used a different name on one than the other. Now, that could be suspicious. It could not be suspicious. If she was suspicious, she has still forged ahead. So Legion says that they met when he was out at a work function, had a particularly difficult, trying week at work. They had been all under a lot of pressure at work and had gone out to just relax. And he says that he met her out and about, which, people, is the ideal way to meet people. It's just the old-fashioned way, you see somebody and you strike up a conversation. if that is a lost art, along with so many other human interactions, things are pretty dire, aren't they? So, hey, why don't you set yourself aside from the rest, have a point of difference, make yourself a lot more attractive if you are looking for a partner, and yeah, take it into real life. You know, create a meet cute. So yeah, just be bold. And I know the culture is that people get shot down, they get judged. Look, you've got to have a harder skin because you want to weed those people out. Inwardly, internally, thank them. Say, thank you for showing me who you are. I'm glad that I avoided you. Now, should Reesa Teesa have been saying, I'm glad that you showed me who you are. You've got profiles that are completely different, using a different version of your name. So she says that they had planned to go to the Cheesecake Factory, and she was on her way there. Her tire blew out. So she called him and explained. And he said, where are you? So she sends him the, her locator on Google or something, and he drives there. He changes her tire. Now that's great. Look, women, you should be able to change your own tire. Make sure you've got your spare and learn how to change a tire, because this is pretty basic. Now, getting those nuts off can be tricky. Why don't you practice it before you need it? And why don't you maintain your own car where maybe, not so that it's unsafe and it's getting on the tread of your tire, but maybe you should put some CRC into the nuts and things like that on a regular basis. Make sure you've got all the things that you need so that when you break down, you can independently help yourself. Not everyone can come to your rescue all the time. But anywho, I think accepting the help of a change of a tire, that is fine. But where I draw the line is she then allowed him to take her to a tire repair place and got her tire replaced and paid for it. His story is that this was a friend's business, someone that he knew, so he could get a good deal. It wasn't too expensive. Look, Reesa Teesa, this is someone that you don't know, you haven't met. You should not be accepting that help. I find that absolutely repugnant. And I think it shows a mindset where she is... let's get into that a little bit down the track. So she doesn't have roadside assistance either. And this is something that I believe is, over in Australia, we've got the NRMA, we've got the RACQ. It just depends where you live in Australia, but you pay $110 a year. And you can have someone come out to you at any time. They can bring, hi, JK. Oh, thanks for letting me know you're here. So, yeah, who it is that's here. So you can have someone come out to you, fix your tire, charge your battery, give you a tow, whatever it is, break into your car if you leave your keys in it. So you're paying a fee, and you're paying a small fee for a service, a fee that you should be paying, just include it in your budget for insurance and things like that, for maintenance. Putting one tire on, did the tires need to be rebalanced, changed around and then realigned? Just putting one on like that, anyway. We need to be independent. It doesn't mean that we can't be looked after by men and have them being macho. Machismo is wonderful, and you've got to be feminine when you accept the masculine as well. But it doesn't mean that you are irresponsible and not independent to a certain degree. These are just the basics. And I think when you want certain things and aren't willing to go a certain distance, it does make you vulnerable to making really stupid decisions like Reesa Teesa, and dive into relationships and situations with people that you don't know. So what actually happened was they were meeting just before lockdowns occurred in the States, so early 2020, I believe, and quite a lot happened in a very crunched up few months, okay, in this relationship. If you can call it a relationship, it's really a situation that she laid herself bare for and didn't protect herself from, and she invited somebody in, and she invited a person in that is looking for people like her. So he was living in a studio apartment. She was renting a townhouse, 3 bedrooms, and his story is that he was actually working for a condiment company. Throughout their relationship, he apparently gets a promotion to VP at quite a terrible time in their relationship. I'll get to that bit. And he says that he owned a house elsewhere that he purchased many years ago for the fee of $125,000 because when he was playing arena football in college that he attended as an older student because he was a late bloomer, he was very frugal with his money, he says. And sorry, friends just face messaging me. It's all BS, right, from what we can all gather here on the tubes. But 2.5 weeks into their relationship, she decides that she doesn't want to quarantine on her own. They've had quite an intense dating experience throughout this time, seen each other quite a lot. He's telling her how successful he is, how much money he has, that he has offshore bank accounts, that he has plenty of money to buy them a house, maybe a $700,000 house. And she is taking everything at face value, even though there's plenty of red flags, because, she wants it to be true, because she wants to just walk into a situation where a rich man makes everything all right for her. She doesn't even care if she knows him or not. So she says she just doesn't want to be alone during quarantine. Well, again, if you don't have skills, some people physically might not be able to change a tire. If you don't think you can, have roadside assistance. If you don't think you can quarantine on your own, even though we've got FaceTime, etc., you need, there's things that you need to address there. It wasn't very pleasant, okay? We know that, and it's damaged a lot of people, and people have PTSD. What a poor choice. Why didn't you go and stay with your mother? Jerome says she had a terrible relationship with her mother, so maybe that's why. So the pandemic hit, the story goes, and Jerome says that no, for 5.5 months, I didn't even see her. She gets pregnant early on in the relationship, and he says, this wasn't my child. This was a child of the person she's having the affair with at work. It's a really long story, okay, so it's hard to tell this really. I could tell this in succession, but she made on TikTok 52 10-minute segments. A lot happened, and I do want to move through it. But, look, this is I'm just giving you this basic, because really it really boils down to one thing, that Teesa made terrible decisions. And what I'm interested in exploring is, what other poor decisions is Teesa going to make in life? Imagine if the situation was different. What if she was a single mother? There are a lot of single parents, because people have relationships and they break up. they don't marry and stay together, which is a protective mechanism in itself most of the time for children. No, they break up and they bring other people into the life of a vulnerable child. And what would Teresa's decision been if she had a child? Let's say a 6-year-old daughter. Let's say she hadn't been eternally single and had perhaps been through, a marriage and been through a rough breakup. This happens. And was a single parent and just the same was like, looking for a father for her children and someone to help make it easier and not to be alone and to have something for herself. I mean, all fair enough things, but it's not right to make snap decisions based on things that don't keep your child safe. Would she have invited Jerome to come and stay then, or would she have felt not too alone because she was going to be looking after a child? Hi, Jerome. Okay, you restart your web browser and we'll see you back. So he's saying he didn't see her for 5.5 months and that they FaceTime. Now that sounds reasonable, right? But, so many people think that everything he says is a pathological lie. And, there are things that point to this, because when he talks about, because he's got a slick answer for everything. You would have seen the patterns if you've seen his story. That person is like a brother to me, so that's why I say they're my brother. Well, she's like a sister to me, that's why I call her my sister. Well, she's like an auntie to me, so that's why I was saying she was my auntie. He's got an answer for everything, but one thing is, when talking about weekend jail, I mean, that's real jail. And this person does have a criminal history. Okay, how can I do this to make this a bit more exciting? Because there are things I want to talk about. There's so much to talk about. Oh man, when he tells his story, it's so it's really interesting listening to how things just roll off. There's clearly things that he's told over and over again. Now, Teresa has alleged that Jerome has been diagnosed as a child with bipolar and schizophrenia. So I think it's important to look at those things and, okay, how would that fit in with cluster B, which is, the personality disorders that would be related to pathological lying. Schizophrenia, if he was a child, as she says, well, it would have had to have been early onset, although after 18, it's possible to be diagnosed. But as a child, early onset diagnosis, it's very rare. And schizophrenia, it is a psychotic disorder, so it's going to include delusions and things, but it's something where you are low in openness and high in neuroticism, and you're low in conscientiousness and extroversion. And it's not that morbidity is usually, an anxiety disorder or depression, whereas with bipolar, which is a mood disorder, that's generally what is comorbid with the cluster Bs. So you've got your histrionic, borderline personality disorder, which is probably the most destructive for the person who is living with that disorder. and probably for people around, you've got narcissistic disorder and antisocial personality disorder. So this is your type 1 and type 2 psychopathy. Type 2 being sociopathy. If he's got a criminal record from being a child, it's possible, yes, sociopathy is at play there. And that's where the lying comes in, and the narcissism. But, sociopaths are made. And, it would be interesting to go back and see the dynamic of his family. He is a twin, and then he's got an older brother. He was acting out in front of Nisa, phone calls to brothers and things like that. Every morning he would have these intense conversations, in-depth conversations, and be sort of saying, Tisa says this and he says this back. Truly bizarre. And bipolar, these sort of personality disorders, they're the ones that have that high experience, the ocean that Dr. Grande goes on about. They've got the high openness, the lower neuroticism. You imagine that as giving balls and drive to these fantasies that he was living in. But, we've got to think what comes out of childhood trauma, because, is the way that he is now. This is a person that needs a support in life rather than to be floundering around on his own. And, is he living with coping mechanisms? Is this what it is? And these aren't traumas that come from sexual abuse or physical neglect. These are traumas that come from emotional abuse and emotional neglect, usually. And that's what will generally create those narcissistic or those cluster Bs. And, was it always that one twin was noticeably more successful? It seems that some of the lies that Jerome has told about his own life to Nisa, he was actually mimicking the true life of his twin. Yeah, you have to wonder. I mean, he's possibly schizoaffective, which is bringing in that anxiety and depression. But again, these things often come with drug abuse for coping, alcohol abuse specifically. And Reesa Teesa has said herself that Jerome is an extremely light drinker. And then it's often the bipolar comorbidities can have the migraine, thyroid issues, obesities, type 2 diabetes, heart issues. Now, he did get very sick. He doesn't seem very healthy now, and she is saying that he was very healthy at the end of their very short marriage. This could have been just something psychosomatic, I don't know, or malingering. But what he seemed to be expressing, I think it could have been diabetes. We don't know. Anywho, so we're looking at someone being accused of being a pathological liar, a habitual liar, but we need to know, well, what does that fit with? Yeah. Because there's the mood disorders, there's the psychotic disorders, and there's the personality disorders. And frankly, we'd really need to unravel it. So let me go back. So she's allowed this person, because she's thinking, okay, so number one, I don't want to be quarantining alone. Well, that's a natural feeling, but do you make a decision to shack up with someone that you've known for 2.5 weeks? He could have been physically abusive. He could have been very controlling. She said in part of her story that it got to the point where he would be saying, what are you wearing? Why are you wearing that to work? He would be calling her, expecting her to come home. You should be home by now because you finished work. So, I mean, those are very controlling, very dangerous behaviors. But he says, well, because she didn't take a promotion, she wasn't trying to better herself. She wanted me to be investing all this money, but she wasn't trying to better herself and show me that she could be fiscally responsible. She turned down a promotion because she wanted to work with the person that she was having an affair with. He says that he was at her work one day, which is in some type of law enforcement office, and the wife of a colleague of Teesa's approached him in the car park and said, your wife is having an affair with my husband. And then he says after that, he eventually caught her having an affair. He found them together in the house. And he alleges that the baby that she ended up losing, was his. So what do you think about that, right? 2.5 weeks. Does that seem like someone who herself is emotionally intelligent, who has emotional intelligence, who, this is what I want to say. We could actually sum this up without me discussing any other of these things. Does this woman have a survival instinct? Would she be someone who, as another type of wild animal, would just be taken out of the chain altogether? Survival instinct. I mean, this is why we're here. It should be innate, shouldn't it? Or inherent. What's the word? Somebody. What is it about people that they override survival instinct? If she had one already, she said she was seeing red flags, but she overrode it. Why? Greed? Laziness? Grubbiness? I don't know. She seems like someone who is intelligent, witty. She tells a great story. She told it from start to finish, in order, coherently, unlike the way that I'm talking about it. If I open this, will I close it? Sorry, my friend's trying to get hold of me there. Just cut you that. So, all right, let me just race through. Oh, okay, so she's pregnant. She gets pregnant. This is very early on as well. And so I think they decide to get married. And she is, I think, pushing the things forward that he has promised her. He's promised her a house. I think she did aggressively pursue that and didn't say, well, let's just take our time. Let me get to know you first. She's already shacked up with him. She's got him in her house. And now she's married him in a courthouse ceremony. This is the pandemic. They don't have a wedding. And she's pregnant. So this is a child she's having with someone she doesn't know, and somebody whom she's already suspicious of, because, he shows her these screenshots of a bank account and an offshore account, and, he makes a cash offer for a house in front of her on the internet. I mean, she says that she finds out later every single thing is a lie. She found out that his offer on the house, it wasn't his offer, that she saw the house go off the market online. It was someone else, another person altogether, who actually purchased the house. Still, she doesn't kick him out because she's still pushing forward with buying another home. That this guy, she wants him to buy her a house, and she's pregnant with him, and it turns very sad because she has a miscarriage. The baby passes away, and she takes a pill to try to, finish the abortion. So it was a natural abortion. Sometimes women's bodies, there might have been something, I don't want to say wrong, but that's often why women have miscarriages. There is something genetically wrong, or there's something in the development that your body just knows isn't right, and you'll have a miscarriage. So she has a miscarriage, but the baby hasn't passed. She's trying to work out what to do. He hasn't got health insurance. I don't know if she has. She can't go and stay in a hospital and be monitored and cared for. She does this at home. It's a terrible experience. She's in agony, and it still doesn't work. So she still has to go in for the procedure where they will actually scrape her womb out. And while she's there, Jerome is avoiding her, not going into hospital, because he's playing this ruse of, well, I'm getting a promotion at work to the vice president of production for this condiment company, and I can't come in and get you. But the nurses, they can contact my new now I've got a personal secretary, and you can contact him. His name's David, like my executive assistant or whatever. So he's texting Tessa as if he's David, and the nurses are calling and saying, can you come and pick her up? And David, he's pretending to relay the message, but it was probably, it was obviously Jerome that the nurses are talking. So he doesn't front up in hospital. He's avoiding it for some reason, maybe because he saw it as an opportunity for the ruse. I think it's because he was driving forklifts. He didn't have the time off. If he took time off to go into the hospital, he doesn't get that pay packet for the day. And the ruse that he's carrying on is that he's wealthy, that he's earning, 200,000 or 96,000 or something like that. And he's actually paying for the household expenses. So he's paying the rent on this townhouse. He's paying a lot of things to do with the home. And Nisa is loving it because Tessa is loving it. I keep calling her Nisa. Tessa's loving it because she's got all her money on her own. She's just, he's making her responsible for her car payment. He says he hates her car. It's not a very good car. It keeps breaking down. He's always having to fix it, always having to pay to fix it and things like that. And, he's been dangling that, well, he's going to get a company car and he'll buy her a BMW. She says they went test driving all over town. He said that she was driving that. She would just go off and do that because she was so easily in with his delusion, because she just was so grabby and wanted it badly that she didn't even think. And, it might be, I feel like there's these uncomfortable truths in here. And I think that he didn't go because his ruse would crumble already, because he's earning enough as a temp and driving these forklifts and doing these things that he can afford to do that, so appear to be wealthy. And he's actually said about that well, no, I was doing this for charity. And he would say to people, so many people have come forward, okay? He was telling people where he was working in this warehouse that I don't need to do this. I'm doing it to keep busy, and I'm donating my time. And he tells the internet that he was doing it because, well, I learned from my grandfather and from people in my family and role models, to do charity work, and that it's a great thing to do. And I do that because that's how giving I am. So he says, so I was going out and helping, get these food and supplies out to disaster areas. This whole relationship is a disaster area, because it's something that it is not an act of God. It's an act of will. It should never have happened. And we need to, women and men, we need to be more responsible about what we're getting into. It's just a stroke of luck, really, that Reesa Teesa didn't already have a child, she would have, what decision would she have made? Do you think she would have made the same decision? I think she would have. And us true crimers, we know the dangers and what happens when you're bringing people into your life that aren't vetted. And okay, fair enough. You want something for you. You don't want to be alone. You don't want to be 45 by the time your child's 18 and then you can date. But a lot of women actually do that. And same with men. They do. Because they know that's what they have to do. Because the children's safety, education, spiritual development, etc., it all comes first. And they don't complicate their lives. But there are people that are very willing to bring people in and then just delegate responsibility to them. And these are the children that go missing, aren't they? And don't think that these predators don't play the long game as well, because they will meet a woman with a 5-year-old child and groom this child for 6 years until they're 11. And that person, that predator, and we've heard this before, the way people talk, they see these children as women. So they play the long game. And we've seen this over and over again. So Teesa was putting herself at risk by having a stranger move into her home. She's let him pay for things like tires. She was enjoying him paying for dinners, shoes, handbags. And she doesn't know this person. She's seeing red flags. And now she's pregnant, okay? You'd think you'd want to be a bit more wary and hold off, but I think she's someone that was very aware. Her clock's ticking. She's probably looking around her at family and friends, and they've got families of their own, and they're experiencing that in life. She's feeling left behind. Well, now she's in the situation where she's gone through such a horrible experience that she has not dated since. And that's very sad. Now, I know myself the pressure of not having a child. And, women age out. And you actually age out of a relationship often as well. That's another story for another day. But, there were so many things. She says he says he was helping to try and clean up her credit, that she was a mess. People say, well, why didn't you go and live in your own house that you owned? Or why didn't you sell the house that you owned? He was trying to get her to clean up her credit. She took out a 2-year lease on that townhouse without telling him. He says that she aggressively pursued the real estate agents and homes, and it was all about using his money, and that he was funding her lifestyle. So when he's talking, sometimes his voice is really shaky, but you nearly think he can blush, but he just forges ahead, when he's talking about Arena League, living in California, which she says the background check didn't show. He's got an answer for everything. Oh, well, someone at that San Diego University, they got stalked once. Something horrible happened. So from then on in, they decided that they weren't going to give out information unless it was to alumni or family or whatever, right? He's got a slick answer from everything. He says he saved enough money there because he lived frugally. Arena players probably get $40 to $45 $1,000 a year. It's not enough to have the wealth that he was acting like he had, offshore accounts, making cash offers on $700,000 homes, He won't show any photos. He's been asked, well, show us just a photo in your gear. What team did you play? look, I don't want to tell you because this is going to endanger everybody. It's going to, their lives will be invaded. Look at what's happening already. He's been arrested for impersonating a police officer. This was pretty bad. He was arrested for impersonating a police officer. This is what he was doing weekend jail for, I think. His answer to that was, no, someone had stolen my friend, had stolen my driver's license. And that's who was, that's why they think I was going to weekend jail. It was this mate. Oh, but he's always the good friend. He's always the one helping out. And his answer to everything is usually that. He says, no, but I was driving him there every weekend, dropping him off, picking him up, It's really crazy. It was just someone that used to do laundry at my house. He's acting like impersonating an officer is nothing, Israel. When he's accused of being a narcissist, he says to a girlfriend, this is in real time now, because this relationship was happening in 2020. She's come out to tell her story now. The allegation is that, well, she's saying this now because he's with someone new and she's lonely and it's sour grapes, and he's got a girlfriend that he's sort of talking off, or someone pretending to be his girlfriend anyway that's talking off camera. And he goes, a narcissist? He goes, I'm not, am I? I mean, I always defer to you. You know much more than I do. I'm not always right. What happened was when they broke up, he was very sick. It was as if he was in so much pain with a knee. And she was told that it was a knee injury that he had gotten from arena football. He wasn't getting out of bed even to go and pee or make food. He was peeing in Gatorade bottles, she says. And he says this is bullshit because she said, I kicked him out on his birthday. He said he was going to go off and stay with family. She says, no. He said, my birthday was coming up, and there's no way I was sticking around for this. So I left a week before my birthday. She packed up 2 bags of luggage for him, and kicked him out of the house. And he returned to get some of his belongings, which, and she had him arrested. There was actually a warrant out for his arrest for probation violation, apparently. But in between those two things, she went to meet up with him somewhere where there was maybe a post office where there was a notary public, so that they could have their divorce papers notarized. So he says, oh no, well, I filed for divorce. I didn't. She just beat me to the punch. So she met up with him. She had divorce papers drawn up online by an app she paid $300 for, and then said, I want you to come and sign it. She says he didn't even read it. He just signed it. In this paperwork, it said that everything, what he's got is his and what she's left with is hers. She says he just turned up and signed it, that he was living in his car, that he stunk, that he's lost weight. And she says subsequently times that she saw him, he was thinner and thinner from a 3X down to maybe a medium or an L, and that he stunk, he was dirty. Now, I think when she went to meet him, a woman, a true woman, would have packed up those things that were valuable. He had a lot of WWF belts that he'd bought, just things that he can sell. Take his suits. Take things. He says, no, I took everything, but of course pride and everything is going to say that. She says he really left with nothing, just these 2 bags, and then never got anything else. Well, actually, she shouldn't have held on with his stuff. She should have just packed it into her vehicle in some boxes or bags, tote bags, and just given it to him. Just clean. Why would she want his stuff? Well, she sold it on Amazon and on other marketplaces. I don't think that's very righteous. I don't care what he's put her through. Okay? Just give the man his stuff. By this time, she's already thinking he's, she found out a lot more, that he's told these same lies over and over again. She found out about the twin and that it was his life that he was echoing to her. But, have some compassion. This is clearly someone mentally ill. They've left. She's already suspecting that he has nothing. So knowing that he has nothing, she wants him to stay with nothing. And I just find that's very odd. I just think it would have been a very easy act, one that didn't affect her in the slightest, to give him her things. I know a lot of people will say, screw him, no, she's in the right. She's booted this dropkick out. He put her through hell. She accepted hell, okay? She said, oh, hello, hell, nice to meet you. I'll be sucker number 9,346. Come on in. So that's what I think. And especially when she saw him in that state, how did she think that he was going to be able to sustain some sort of work? You know, when things go pear-shaped for people, this is when it gets even worse, is when you are trying to get on your feet and you're living in your car and you can't clean yourself. You are trying to maintain. It is very hard not to just dip down into this is never going to get better land, right? She should have made sure to get him something that he could have sold. So he could have sold his possessions so he can be off the street. But, you know, she's got a divorce. She's lost her baby, so she's not going to be linked with him. I mean, that is really a difficult thing, you know. A friend that died recently, she was married to someone with bipolar, and it's always been difficult, and there's a lot of compromise and a lot of, I don't want to say enabling, but just a lot of work to make it work for them. And it's never going to get better. You know, so she, as people are saying that term, you know, which I don't really like, but, you know, she dodged a bullet because she lost a child. And she's several years older now, and she might not get her opportunity. I hope she does. But I hope she knows how to use her discernment to find a parent for her future child. So what else? He's saying, you know, he was still in his own home. He was just FaceTiming her. He never saw her for 5.5 months. He bought her a car because the Nissan Rogue she had drove him up the wall. He's saying that he was trying to get her to, you know, you don't have to spend all this money all the time, you know. That she was living beyond her means anyway. And she admitted that she was living paycheck to paycheck. But then later she says, well, it's not like he had to pay a lot. This house wasn't very expensive, etc. She says he wanted her to change the car because she was pregnant, and he wanted her looked after, and he wanted me to have a BMW. Yeah. Now, Reesa Teesa, all throughout, she is saying, and now this doesn't reflect very well on me. And I think there's honesty there, and I think there are things that she's never going to admit about her attitude and about what she wanted and why she ignored red flags. And at the same token, there's things that Jerome is saying. Do you know what his negative is? He's the thing that he admits. Yeah, and I fully accept that I should have disclosed all of my money, my actual income, how high it was. And yeah, I did hide money from her and told her I had only half of what I did. You know, but she wasn't financially stable, so it's pretty crazy. I mean, what she is saying, what a lot of people seem to be confirming, is that really the only true thing he said, that both his parents were deceased, and that he's got, you know, a brother in Philly and a brother, can't remember, somewhere else, but that was really it. Everything else was So Yeoman says he's just going to spray some graphite drawings he's been doing with a fixative, and he's still listening. All right. So she says, as part of the delusion, the lies, he was going to take her to London, take her to Paris when they could travel. He is saying, well, her story is actually reflecting this blog that everyone should know about. I've already mentioned this. She says he started questioning her clothing, male voices in the background when he was talking to her at work, when she'll be home from work. Told you about the colleague's wife, accusing them of having an affair. This same wife is the one that apparently said, look, I've caught them on teddy bear cam. I've had a teddy bear camera in my home. I've seen her in my home with my husband. And now I happen to know that they're around at your house. There was an incident, and I don't know if she denied this, where he says he was home. She had taken his car to go somewhere. She just decided to drive his car, not her car. And when she was out, this man, probably thinking that Teesa was home and he wasn't because her car was in the drive, has come in and just backed in the driveway, and then has seen Jerome and just said, oh, and driven off. Yeah. So she says that he was very sick, moping about the house, was in a lot of pain, strangely wouldn't go and get treatment. And he says, no, I went silent on her for 2 weeks. I took my belongings. I've had to go, they were going to marriage counseling before the breakup. He was going because, she's really bad with money, or she was going because he was lying about money, and he was going because she was cheating, and that after 3 months of going to different counselors, one of them her pastor, she's not budging. So, he just he ghosted her for 2 weeks, and then they got divorced. But she says that he used to pretend not only to be talking to people on the phone, not only to be in a really responsible job. He's an accomplished person who is ambitious and is earning great money, promising the world. And, he's got this work phone. He tells her, well, she says, this wasn't a work phone. I found out it was a prepaid phone, and he was texting someone called Peaches on it, someone he'd met on a dating site, and he was asking about the pricing, and that, these messages were intermittent over the course of a few weeks, and that he actually met up with her at one point, and that a couple of times she saw, and that there were a couple of texts at various times saying, hey, thanks, I had a nice time. Yeah. So, what else? When they were, getting divorced, he says, no, I hugged her and told her I'd be back for the rest of my stuff. We actually shook hands. She hugged me. I said, my best advice for you, Reesa Teesa, is get yourself together financially. You never stepped it up. This is why we're getting divorced. So he says, women get a pass over things like infidelity, but it was the fiscal stuff that he couldn't get over. Did I hide money from her? Yes, I did. We went to counseling. I wanted to forgive her, but she doesn't, believe ever that she is wrong. He says, I filed for divorce but didn't finish it because I was in a car accident. Maybe that's what she's thinking about when she's talking about my knee. I've had to have 4 surgeries, he said. I've had to learn to walk again. He does not look like a man who's learned to walk again. We all see what physical toll that takes, and then they don't suddenly become obese again. I don't know. It looks like he's learned to go to the buffets over and again. So any weight that she said he lost, he's put it all back on. maybe he was just under a lot of stress. Maybe because he was homeless and living in his car, he lost a lot of weight because he wasn't eating. I mean, I have very proudly lost 5 kilos and kept it off for 4 weeks. But that's from fasting, eating nutritiously. Anywho, there were all these names that he would throw around, Shantae and LJ and all sorts of things. People that Reesa Teesa thought were people in his family and things like that, but he's been called out on that by his family, and Teesa's been set straight. She says he did things like take her touring his hometown, to take her to the cemetery where his parents were buried and things like that. And he says, no, I never showed you my parents' grave. Maybe I showed you where my grandmother is buried, but my parents were cremated and they don't have a grave. She says he would tell stories like, well, my grandma's just died of COVID, and then she found out she died in 2008. He would get Teesa to send money, $2,000 or clothing and gifts like shoes to people, saying, that he's helping out friends because he's just so good. These things were going places, who knows where. There was so much crazy stuff that went on. He says that during counselling, so this would have been a 3-month period, they weren't together very long, so I don't know what was going on here, but he stopped paying for her lifestyle. No dinners, no concerts, no shoes, no handbags. She says, I got rid of everything after this. A lot of people get rid of everything. Do you know, when you've been in an abusive relationship, women will even get rid of their lingerie. Okay, but she kept the shoes. Teesa kept the shoes. I guess why waste a good pair of heels? But, where are the principles don't have limits. Well, I don't know. Say titty again. Yes, I know. Ha ha ha. I know. Titty. Titty. Yeoman's getting high on substances over there in his place. Yes, maybe you should. Open a few windows. She says she bought shoes for his friend's daughter. He was saying that her name's Egypt. Apparently there's no one called Egypt. And she says that she was told that this daughter died. Another daughter died. He's going, no, she's fine. I know her very well. She's perfectly fine. She just graduated from Duluth. Really, I mean, this person, he's estranged from everybody. He is alienated from everybody. He is a person that will only ever have whomever he can suck into his vortex. At one point it was Reesa Teesa, and if it's true that he's got a girlfriend now who was sort of speaking off camera, at this stage it's her. He says, no, I wasn't lying about getting a promotion. I was leaving that job. I'd left that job. Yeah, it's just crazy, the back and forth. But she told the story very well, right? Yeah, the reason why she was out of the house, they were fighting, things were horrible, but she was quite happy to accept money to go and have a manicure, pedicure. So he paid for that, and if she's getting, depending on the nails and everything, I mean, that could be nearly $300. And she's walked out the house and hasn't driven her Nissan Rogue. She's taken his car as well. I mean, I really think there's a level of disrespect. I mean, and everything she said, well, he's my husband. It's like, he's my husband, so now I can just vampirishly take everything of his life. I mean, I really think there's big issues here. There's something with Teesa happening here, you know. I feel like she is struggling with the fact that she's not got the things that she wanted in life, and when she got it, maybe she's proving why. I don't want to be mean to her. She seems, I don't know, it's hard to judge. So he is saying that she admitted to me that the child was someone else's. You know, I hadn't seen her for that 5 to 6 months. We'd not been physically together, and she was actually having an affair with a colleague. And she's just trying to tell me, you know, she was just gaslighting me, saying that I just didn't remember that, you know, the times that we were physically together. Why didn't he leave? Well, I didn't live there. We would just hang out on the weekends, he says. I guess I was a fool. I wanted it to work. He says that she tried to get back so many times, that she has fake book accounts. She says he's got the fake book accounts, which I am more want to believe. But he's going, no, I'm in love. I don't want you. I'm in a good place. Yeah. You know, she had so many red flags. The things, you know, he's quite convincing, but he thinks he's convincing, right? He's got that, it's just, he's glib, and he just puts it out there, and he will move forward. He doesn't answer questions, or he'll be very circular. He says about his weight, no, I lost weight because I was working out, I was going to the gym. Well, now he looks even bigger than she described when she first met him. It's nuts. Oh, but I had to take steroids to get my strength back for learning to walk again. If you've ever tried to learn to walk again, it is the hardest thing you'll ever do. And, you know, that makes you very, you know, hungry. Now, he brought up something really interesting, and apart from this concept of lack of survival mechanism, greed, racing ahead, you know, just poor decision making for why, she didn't need to rush ahead, not being able to be alone, all of this stuff, right? Things that we need to work on. The other thing, I just, you know, tweaked at me or whatever was, twinged at me, was he brought up unevenly yoked. So there's this big long response interview. The interviewer does a very good job because he's not calling him on things. You should never do that with a narcissist, okay? Or it would have been shut down. It could have been, you get more information just rolling with it and everything. And yeah, so at the end, he goes into quite the diatribe. Part of it is, you know, we were unevenly yoked. If you want a wife and mother, you know, well, she just wasn't matching me. She wasn't stepping up. Well, matey potato, what do you want? Do you want a traditional masculine feminine relationship where you are the provider? Why would you say to someone you need to attain more in your career when, if you're looking for a traditional relationship, the equality is different, and you would want someone that wants to be traditionally feminine to take your leadership on board and to give you the respect of being a leader, whilst they receive the respect from you of being protected and nurtured, and creating a safe environment to bring offspring into, where offspring, your genes that you're both putting into the world, are going to be safe. They're going to grow, they're going to develop, they're going to be safe from predators. Funny biological thing is that really at 5 years old, when children are 5 years old, that's when sort of things change in the brain of a father often, because they know they've gotten their offspring to a size and an age when they're more likely to survive now independently. Human children, because walking upright, because of all sorts of things, the way our pelvis is, we can't give birth to a child like other animals do. We can't have a long gestation period so that the child can be born at 2 years old and be able to walk. Our children are born early because what we did was we sacrificed the development of our brain, the size of our skull, versus the size of our hips and pelvis for a woman. And so we can't, we have to give birth to very, very vulnerable children. Unlike little elephants and things, they're still very vulnerable, but, horses, foals, animals that just get up and can run, chicks that can get out of the egg and run, turtles that hatch out of eggs and just go towards the ocean and will just go into pounding surf, That's not us, is it? So, he has some good advice, actually. He actually ended up having some quite good advice for baby daddies, the baby daddy that he's never going to be, or I hope he's never actually going to be. But I think he's someone that can absorb from the world. He knows what the right things are, but he's just not that person, because he isn't a full person. He lives in delusion, and he lives in a million sparkles. Whoa, heavy part to walk into. Yeah, sorry, Million Sparkles. Welcome to the Humanimal channel, where that could happen at any time. And in his interview, the why now is, she goes really into depth, okay? So as I explained, she's got 520 minutes, and then there's a lot of follow-up as well. 520 minutes of describing, the lies about his life and lifestyle and what he really could provide and things like that, and the promises he made. And so he's being asked about it, and he says, well, why do you think she's saying this now? Why isn't it just buried in the past? You want to heal from it. Why create this wound for yourself? And he says, well, her life has fallen apart. He says, look, I can't stand it. By all means, give her money, but I really wish you wouldn't. He says, well, one lady, now that the truth has come out, he says, about Reesa Teesa, and that actually it's all lies, he says, she came forward to me and said, I gave her $3,000, and I'm a mom and I couldn't afford it, and now I'm really bitter that I did it. And he says, hey, off camera, hey, I wasn't going to give her the full 3,000, but look, I just threw her 1,000 because I felt really bad for her. It is compulsive. I think it is compulsive. What did I write? I wrote something here. I'm going, huh? I swear he blushes here, but it's just rolling off the tongue. He has to combat everything. He has to be the big man. And this whole thing is nearly like, is this performance art? People have wondered, is this, they've been set up for a show. Are these all characters who are very well rehearsed? I don't know. It is like performance art, but he can't help himself. And I think it's actually, he is living, people, they do suffer. He is suffering. But, when you are as he is, this is a coping mechanism. We talk often about psychosis here, right? And I often try to describe to you that psychosis, you are creating a reality because the one that you are in is not safe. You really need, if you don't understand that, if you can't intuit that, or if you can't learn that intellectually, it would be something that I really urge you to try to understand about psychosis. even though psychosis can be very scary, it is an alternative reality that is created because of where you are is dangerous, is a bad place. That is how it is. With twins, now he is a twin, there is a 1 in 2 chance that a twin will have, depending on what it is, because some of these conditions we're not sure, but some things have a genetic component. So has his twin just lucked out, or is it something that is more environmental, or the twin didn't get the environmental factors or pressures that Jerome did? But that is, that's one thing that again makes me think about what is the right diagnosis. Not that anyone can diagnose him like this just watching him. It is Reesa Teesa that has said about certain things. But with the schizophrenia, if it is this psychotic disorder, what you would expect is more some of the physical things that he really actually could be suffering with, and that would be respiratory things, you know what I'm saying, respiration. Why can't I talk today? Cancer, depression, social withdrawal, hostility, being very suspicious, extreme reactions to things, to criticism, poor personal hygiene. Now that could have been because he was really suffering then, or was it because he was homeless? She says that she saw requests for him to come and stay on people's couches on Facebook. People are saying that, look, they really didn't want him there. They didn't want the trouble that he brings, or they had him there for a little while, but they had to kick him out. It was just too intense. Or people are saying, look, I can't have a bar of him. He's been on his own. He's been on the out for years. And it's really sad that, look, he's a dangerous person. He's destructive. That's what he is. He's destruction in motion. But and people like this, when they are this ill, they can't have a normal life. No wonder his fantasies all revolve around maybe what he thinks of as the life he could have had. Oh, you're not giving any, I didn't take any disrespect from that, A Million Sparkles. Psychosis is terrifying as an outsider. It's devastating watching someone you love become something you don't recognize, and it's so scary. No, not at all. What we're actually talking about, what I decided to talk about, because thematically it's interesting. It's not that I enjoy social media dramas and watching, this sort of reality stuff unfold. It's not really what I'm into, but I thought that it's got cross purposes here, because it's a lot of people are going to be choosing sides, deciding what's right. They're going to be, there's going to be a lot of blame. It's kind of reflecting in what's happening in Delphi murders situation, Abby and Libby's story, where people are saying, Raquel is innocent, or the prosecution are corrupt. They see something, they're making decisions. They don't have all the answers. They don't have all the information, but they've certainly got opinions, and people are going to have opinion about this as well. And it's just interesting, the themes, because there's those social themes, there's the themes of womanhood and parenthood, and people that the natural thing of human beings wanting to couple, and what is the effect when it's just not going right, and this is not you, and it hasn't happened for you, and the mental illness aspect, and the lies, and the he said, she said. It's so fascinating. And so this woman, her name's Teresa, so she goes by Reesa Teesa, and it's actually on YouTube as a whole just long. You can just, if you've got somewhere to drive, or if you are having a lazy day or cleaning the house, you can put it on and listen to her tell her story, and it will engage you. She tells it well enough. You'll have a lot of thoughts as it's going along, but you can listen from start to end. I think I sort of heard most at the start, and then, maybe the first third and the last third, and I've got snippets in between. It was really, but it's and then so what's come about, the person that she's talking about, Jerome. The series is called "Who the Fuck Did I Marry?" He has now had his ex-wives come on saying, "Yep, everything out of his mouth is a lie. If his, basically, if his lips are talking, he's lying, right?" And they are confirming things like, no, yeah, you're right. He doesn't have money. He never had that job. That job was actually what his older brother, his twin, who might be 20 minutes older or something, what his twin was doing. And that sort of thing, right? So they're coming out in a lot of support of him. And I think it's actually very sad, okay? Because his sad, desperate life, and hers though, right? And she's exposed herself, and she's trying to say, no, I'm taking accountability for me. She is. And I mean, he's unable to. And as I said before, what he was taking accountability for was simply things like, yes, I hid the money. I hid money from her. That's all he is saying. Have you, Million Sparkles? Did you always have the moniker Million Sparkles? I have been really quiet on YouTube lately, other than going into other chats and things, but I've really gone off it, and I've really gone off talking about Delphi. People like, there are groups and there are people, creators, that they're allowed to do scenario-based videos and just imagine all sorts of things. But when I want to talk about something that might relate to an actual arrest, it's just personal attack on me, and that I'm acting out of line as if I know Kathy Allen. I don't know if you've seen then when I had discussions about, shivers, okay, well, what would this look like? Richard Allen has been arrested. He's in jail on remand right now for these murders. So I think if you're going to talk about any scenario, quite righteously, you can talk about his marriage and what it might have looked like for his wife. If Richard Allen is guilty, did she know, and what was this like? And what might have created a situation where it seems like she has cleaned up his Facebook, been very quiet as well, etc. And it got me thinking, okay, either, yeah, she just has no clue, which doesn't seem right either. She seems quite aware of the Delphi case. It's in her hometown. She's living in Deer Creek. They've lived there, Deer Creek Township. So it's just on the outskirts of town. They had lived there since 2006. Her daughter is photographed on Monon High Bridge in a photograph that was taken in the past, but only posted in 2018. And their daughter is seen in an Abby and Libby t-shirt, tie-dye, and a photo with a cat on her back. Okay, she's aware of the situation. So she's probably seen the BG, OBG, YBG sketches, the video, watched the press conferences. It's perfectly reasonable, and I thought quite fascinating, and to talk about that because that's what I always used to do. But my channel's changed. I have been crushed so much with my ability to just come on here and, hey, let's really let's let out these themes that interest us. People say they're into true crime for the psychological aspect and things. They are in it for entertainment, and they are in cults, basically, most of them, some of them, okay? And these are the people that like to just harass me in chat, saying, you just act like you know Kathy Allen and all her thoughts, and you wouldn't know her from a bar of soap. Well, duh, but what I'm doing is having a very reasonable discussion about what could be the situation. Codependency would be one very reasonable explanation. This would be interesting to talk about. If you're saying you want to understand this crime, why do you not want to understand the marriage and the dynamic of what went on for 6 years before Rick Allen was arrested? You say you'd want to find, well, why didn't she come forward? Well, isn't that interesting, right? You just had this combo with your husband recently. What do you mean, this combo? Do you mean you were in a codependent relationship or something else? You started as Amelia Gemini. I don't recognize that name either, but Anyway, when I'm in web sleuths and stuff, I'm often there actually these days. Just say hi, I'll say hi. People claim psych reasons, social whatever, but most are in it for entertainment. They're in it for the titillation, they're in it because it's their social interaction, it becomes their life. That trolls, the cyber bullies, they get their kicks. They have levels of sadism as well, or they are QAnon type people and believe everything. So, look at what's going on with Idaho 4, and it's the same creators, often the same creators that are creating most of the stir. That's how one particular creator who started off with Delphi gained scores of thousands of subscribers, was taking the same bullshit that she honed on Abby and Libby's situation and took it over to Brian Koberger's situation. So now, anyway, Yeoman's seen it. So, so that's sort of ridiculous, right? So I thought, well, this isn't true crime. I mean, it's true life, and true crime is true life, and it's real people being affected forever. But I thought, well, this will give us something to talk about. I can get back on the saddle as far as lives go, and so what else did I write down here? I don't want to be nasty, seen as saying nasty things about Reesa Teesa, because she seems bright, bubbly, she's attractive, she's got beautiful skin, lovely eyes, gorgeous smile, just lovely features. She has, she's been working in law enforcement. I don't know doing what. Maybe she was an operator or something. No idea, right? But, she's come to the stage in her life where she's not partnered up. Time is ticking. And, I mean, is this what's made her exercise poor decision-making? We'd need to know more about her history. Perhaps this is the first relationship that she's been in with someone that is mentally ill and has treated her this way. But, that feeling, that desperate feeling, it... You can't go back, right? You can't go back in life, but people need to realize, don't forget about this leaving it too late or not sowing your seeds. We get the situation where men are, now they're 55, and what do they want? Yeah, they're looking for a woman in their 30s. Well, mate, I bet you knew lots of women in your 30s when you were 30. And what did you do? Were you just a mofo? Or what was it? Why aren't you married? And now you want a woman of childbearing. Now you want to start your family, and you think you're established and you look good and you can buy things. And now you think that you deserve one of these women, and you're not looking at the pair. And then you're complaining that you are being used and that no one really wants you and that the younger women are just using you. Yeah, they're not interested in you. You are asking for a woman who was 7 years old when you were 25. Are sick, okay? So, people need to realize we need to make good decisions right from the start. Women, your fertility does not last forever. It is waning from 29 years of age. And, decide what you want and don't buy the shit about you can have it all. That's where this guy, Jerome, is really contradicting himself because he's talking about equal yoking and this and that. That doesn't mean she's as powerful and ambitious as I am in work and earning the same amount of money, because that is exactly the lie that has made a lot of women miss out on stuff and go against those traditional roles. This lie that you can have it all, that you can earn, you can make a lot of money, you can have your relationship, you can raise your children, and it's opposite of what he was actually saying. Anyway, so I've mentioned before that he says that he was just out and about and they met in some bar or restaurant randomly, cute meet. He'd probably see someone that is delusional, grandiose. I was trying to think, is this grandiose schizophrenia? Because it's not quite grandiose enough, but actually, to him, he's always, it's always what was the better option, and that's what he is taking, right? So, because there's no room for anything that might bruise an ego sort of thing, right? So, oh no, I wasn't on a dating app, when in fact he's probably on 20 apps and he's trying a Christian dating website. He'll be on one here, he'll be on one for, he's probably on Ashley Martin. He's probably, whatever, but but he's, for him, it's got to be, the story has to be, no, this was a natural meet cute. I've got game. I've got game. I'm confident. I am able to approach a woman, intrigue them, not scare them off. I'm able to ask them out, and I'm able to roll it forward. I'm not on a website, and if you're on a website, good for you. But just be careful. But meeting in real life is really the way to go. And, if you're having trouble with that, well, you just need to think, well, what are some of the things that you enjoy? Don't think about going to bars. Go and think about things that you enjoy and go and do those things, because then you'll meet people that like doing things that you like. Go on to meetup.com and set up a group to hike with your dog, or to go riding bicycles on trails around, whatever. It's very cheap, really. When you think about it, it's cheaper than paying for some dating websites or some matchmaking services to pay for a monthly fee for Meetup and do it that way, Moon and Sparkles agrees she met her husband in Purpose 20 years ago. Yeah. Real life, face to face, just in the wild. So he's calling the wife, one of the wives that came forward. So he'd said that he'd been married once before, but it was actually twice, I think. And but he called LaToya, nasty, despicable, and broken. Which is probably, it's probably how he really feels about himself, maybe. I don't know. Who knows what? But it's really interesting about this. At first she had said, well, he's actually been diagnosed with bipolar and schizophrenia as a child. His father went back to work to pay for the money because they were so troubled with him and they wanted to help him. He got his diagnoses, but then later she's just saying bipolar. And for bipolar, if you're a minor, it's probably going to be diagnosed between 15 and 18, although very young children can be diagnosed with bipolar. And with schizophrenia, that would have had to have been early onset, probably, to be diagnosed under 18. It would have actually been a very early onset. And it doesn't sound like, I don't know, because normally there's a lot of prodromal things that will happen, but by the time you're in your 20s or your 30s, and then, you might be said to be full blown. Now, what have I got here? Something about going to London. Yeah, he promised her London and Paris, and now she's decided that's what I'm doing. I'm going to go, I'm going to vlog. Do you know what? A lot of people are going to tune in. I'd say she will be a very successful blogger. They will love to watch her. She will have a time of her life. She's bubbly. She's got this, very pleasant persona. But I was trying to think, what is this? These grandiose delusions, or, I don't know. What do you guys think? Oh, you're off, Million. I'll see you soon. See you around the traps, and it's funny too, because she was asked in an interview, did you have good experiences with him? And you might think that she would say, yeah, when we were first dating and we were hanging out, it was really great, because we just spent so much time together, just talking, laughing. It felt really exciting. We one time, we'd go for these picnics, and we'd just feed the ducks, and we'd talk, or whatever it is, right? Or, she says, yeah, I mean, we'd go and we'd buy a Michael Kors purse, but, it was all sort of undermined by this bullshit about the BMW car dealerships, and, he wasn't actually ever going to buy me a car. I mean, that just irked me. That irked me. Yeoman says he's got no brain to think of, so no. You've been sniffing those adhesives or whatever, have you? You need to air yourself out. Air yourself out so you can think. You've got a very good brain, as we all know, very highly intelligent and thoughtful. So I was saying, not that they were picnics, or that, on weekends they would take drives to little towns of interest and walk around through churches, and that they did things like that, right? Like the laughing, the sharing, that imprinting. She's just said, sure, hey, it was really fun when he was buying me Michael Kors bags. I mean, that just... Okay, people will say that's just honesty, and what she's saying is, they weren't really in love. She's never admitting that they were in love. She's saying that this was a weird relationship, and that it was quite shallow, and that it revolved around... Well, then, what the F were you doing? It's not who the F was I married to. Hi, Frank. Who the F was I married to? It's like, why TF did I do this? Everyone that's come forward about him says, he talks a lot. He will talk. He will talk your ear off. He will brag. So he's braggadocious, and the talking thing's interesting, because he might not have really been talking a lot to her, except for all these, the threads of things that he was dangling, but he would have these pretend conversations for literally hours. She can't believe it, right? But people will say, he talks all about his accolades. That this was something that was just so weird about him. She does, and then eventually she's sort of in interviews, she's acknowledged her desperation. So look, this is situational, and this is something that we need compassion for, because, what happens? I mean, if you don't have a fabulous career, if you don't have a very rich life, if you are in your 40s and older and you are a woman that hasn't had a child, then life is empty, and it's going to have a sense of something, unless, there are people that just, they're very happy without. They decided early on, they knew it wasn't for them. Sometimes people choose not to have children because they are worried about what they might do to a child, because they know themselves, they know how short their fuse is, they know what their frustrations are. They are frightened that they will ruin a person's life, the person, their child. There's all sorts of reasons, but when it is because it didn't happen, this is grief that you have, for the rest of your life. You're never not aware of it, and everything that's going on in the world that everyone else is doing and what's happening, it is amplifying and reflecting it to you all the time. You don't get away from it. And so, Reesa Teesa's desperation, as she calls it, in which it was, that is palpable, that's real, and that can push your decisions, okay? But it shouldn't, okay? It shouldn't, because there's too much at stake. To have somebody that you don't know in your home, was he love bombing her? Probably. Well, women, take responsibility. We are aware now. We know these things. You need to step back. You need to, let the proof be in the pudding, okay? And not be too quick to just say, yeah, I've got to take that. Latoya's son, so Latoya is the wife that was 10 years in the past that he said is nasty, despicable, and broken. Latoya's son, so this was his stepson for a while, says, yep, it's all true. He, in Jonesboro, Atlanta, Georgia, was impersonating an officer. That is true. He was laying hands on a lady, wanting to pat her down. He was saying that he was looking for a drug dealer in the building or something. He was going into an apartment building and saying that he is there to do an investigation. Sorry. And he patted someone down, apparently. Now, the difference in story, a lot of the things that he tells are the same stories. He uses the same lies about who his brothers are, how close they are, what the names are, things like that, because that helps him keep it all fresh, right? And it's probably in his mind these things are real. But to Latoya, he wasn't this VP of this company and everything, probably because at the time his twin brother wasn't VP of production of this company, so he couldn't mimic it. What he told Latoya and her stepson, Cassine Lokes, was that he was a big time producer. So whether this is producing television programs, documentaries, film, I don't know. He provided, so the mother and son did let it go. Again, he's just buying their suspension of disbelief. Well, we need to look at, why are we being bought? Look, because, we're desperate, the economy sucks. Is it because, we have broken extended families, we're not in the bosom of our family when we need? What is it? Why is it that money over connection? Again, with a child in this scenario, and admitting that that's what they are doing. We let it go. We didn't take him serious. He was paying the bills. So, I just think that is, what's the word, German, Frank, lack of, what is it? Lack of integrity, lack of dignity, a type of prostitution, What is it? Why are we making these decisions? We know things are tough, okay? But we can't keep letting people into our homes, man or woman, right? On ruses and when we don't know them. What else did he say? Yeah, that he would do that phone ruse, that he would pretend to be talking to people on the phone, and that he talked and that it was effing exhausting. That's all right, Joman. Thanks for being here. No, I was just looking for the word. What is it when people are brushing off red flags and when they don't even like someone, a man, or they don't trust him, or they think he's full of shit, but hey, he's paying my rent. Yeah. Yeah, he said he was ecstatic, that he was over the moon about Reesa Teesa's pregnancy. And that's something, look, maybe he's quite happy because he doesn't have to keep carrying on quite a difficult farce and support a child. But, we shouldn't write off that men are going to grieve as much as women for a child that he's lost. But, yeah, that's sort of the end of my notes. So that's it. So, yeah. So, Reesa Teesa, what the hell? Where is survival mechanism? Where is the survival instinct? But also, where is our integrity? We know that we're in this dreadful culture at the moment, right? I mean, it's not the majority, but it's so visible because it's visible on social media. This culture of, women using men, women just pretending that men don't have emotions and feelings, men not being able to have them, and then men, maybe putting off getting married until they're older because they think, well, I can have it all and I can do that later, and I've got to actually have a lot of stuff before I'm worthy of a woman, rather than a woman meeting someone where she recognizes qualities and values and they build a world together and she helps them become successful and they have a successful partnership, so there's that pressure on that side, and this culture of women being promiscuous, with this pro-life playing into that, and so it's getting very fucked up because it's getting and then people are realizing way too late that actually, yeah, what I do want and what I do miss and what I do value is a nuclear family, a solid family to love and be loved and to care for me to live out a traditional role and to create an environment of safety. And now people are living in an environment of great dis-ease, dysfunction and discomfort whilst pretending to be happy with their shallow lives. And we need a reversal of this. So men in your 50s, maybe you need to accept, there's always exceptional circumstances and perhaps you'll meet someone in real life, just click. They are younger. There are women that are looking for older men, but look for your peer. Go and find a peer, okay? And young woman, stop thinking that you've got a shelf life, because you don't, and stop thinking that you can be as horrendously promiscuous and as you want, and then get the quality man that you think you deserve. So it's a balance, isn't it? Everyone's sort of, growing up and experiencing life and everything. But, sadly, we're not seeing it mirrored to us and modeled for us that a traditional sort of safe life is the way to go. People aren't seeing this. We've got the 3 generations now of absolute dysfunction, and so I guess what are we to expect? But we need to be more thoughtful right from the start, and people need guidance right from the start, don't they? Well, there we go. So that's it. So you enjoy doing your artwork, Joman, and if anyone else is still here, maybe not, but maybe Frank. I don't know if we've met Frank before. You take care. I am going to see now if I can go to the pool for a swim and come back and then eat some delicious pasta I made for the first time yesterday. Some, I don't know what that wide egg noodle pasta is, but some of that with it's made a carbonara sauce, a real carbonara sauce. I've never done that before. Ham, and I used chicken, and then just the eggs with Parmesan cheese as the sauce with a little bit of the pasta water mixed in. Oh, mamma mia. I hope your leg is okay, Joman, and that you're mobile and feeling really fit and healthy. Are you feeling all right? Yeah, I don't know. I was going to just do you should do it with prosciutto, some sort of that cured ham or whatever, but I just had ham, and I thought, well, I'll use some chicken breast as well, just thinly sliced, 5, really thin, and oh, damn, it was good. JK, take care as well. And I'll see everyone around and about. Probably see JK in a live somewhere. Joman, thanks for popping in. Hope you are doing okay. And see you all later. Bye.